dear viewer, look at this. This here fella is a character based entirely on that scene from the Mandalorian. That scene that made everybody cry and scream and cry again.
Luke! Oh my god, it's Luke!
Holy shit!
Holy shit! Oh my god! Yo! Oh my god!
Yeah, I know it was a while back, and that I already have a Jedi Knight build, I know. And I also know that Disney managed to spoil the moment already by taking some unnecessary steps.
No, God! No, God, please, no!
What can I say? The scene got me. Even though I am not really a fan of the show, it made me emotional. I would make a reaction video even, but unfortunately I convey my emotions exclusively through Skyrim builds. Like when somebody asks me what is love, I say extra effect perk.
This is so beautiful.
Or when they ask me to describe my feelings about Disney Star Wars, I say concentrated poison. But the scene was good and the build of an Alteration heavy Spellsword came to mind as a result. The character is perfect for a hardcore playthrough with wildcat, revenge of enemies, legendary difficulty and whatnot, because with the overpowered grant telekinesis spell we will use and abuse all the time in the late game, the exact amount of HP on your enemies doesn't really matter that much. Nothing really matters that much. A few people suggested in the comments for my previous Jedi build that I should use Mysticism for that one, so I did, and also Vokrii and Apocalypse and Advanced Alteration and Mysticism Vokrii Compatibility patch available at Vokrii's download page, combining spells from all 3 spell mods into a combat style relying completely on moving and tossing enemies around or tossing things at them. The crowd control is through the roof as a result of the charts over 9000 and OP, generally very OP. And just in case, we will also have a very strong sword in one hand because magicka can run out easily before you have all your gear completely enchanted. I know it's not a lightsaber, I know a bound sword would probably be more suitable, but I already have one with that, and this way at least it's green, which is very, very important apparently.
A green lightsaber! It's a green saber!
And also handcrafted by our character, which is also very, very important apparently. He shamelessly uses both smithing and enchanting to make this sword cut through everything as it darn should. We will also use the vanilla Atronach stone and the Atronach perk to refill the ever-dwindling supplies of magicka, so we will be ready to fight all kinds of enemies both with magic and the sword without any special preparations, without fear of dragons and mages or Daedra. If something can't be thrown away with your alteration, there will fall to the sword. If you are out of stamina, you will cast spells. When out of magicka, hack and slash, and you're just perfect at both. Occasionally, the character can also leave his left hand empty to perform some bashes, especially with the augmented parry spell from the Advanced Alteration mod, which lets you basically do this. Well, it's just a stagger, like the first word of Unrelenting Force, but it happens with every single bash at very small cost in magicka. It can be remembered and applied to you automatically at the start of any combat with the Okatos recital spell from Apocalypse. Yeah, this is about the only reason why Apocalypse is used here. This way you have a strong crowd control move at will, and it will be very helpful before your skills are maxed out. Now, to make him look like he does here in the video, we need the mod called Jedi Sith Armored Clothes, and actually wear the Sith Apprentice set. Yep, that's because the Jedi one looks way too New Hope, and we wanted the post-Return of the Jedi black robe, which is nowhere to be found on Nexus. Why? Also, the glass sword is retextured with the mod called Glass Blades. It offers 3 different variants for glass swords and great swords. It looks cool, what can I say? I added the bracers from immersive armors to that because the gauntlets from the Jedi mod looked a little bit bulky to me, and there is no single black glove mod either. Again, why? What are you doing, modders? Right, so you know the basics, you know the mods, let's talk race attributes and stone. For the race, I opted for a Breton, especially that the dragon skin power stacks with the Atronach stone for a very hefty amount of spell absorption right from the early days of your playthrough. Breton's natural magic resistance also combines nicely with the Alter Self perk, and the Atronach stone means we have no need to put any resistances on our armor or jewelry, which is great because we have other priorities there. The attribute spread should look like this, with 1 point of stamina and 1 of magicka per 2 of health. 1 rank of Alter Self will be used to improve magicka, and light armor skill will be used to increase our stamina regeneration, so focusing on health will be perfectly fine. Now for the skills and perks, and the main skills are in order of importance: Alteration, one-handed smithing, light armor, enchanting, and block. In Alteration, you are going to need these perks here. Telekinetic Force will allow you to kill enemies with objects thrown with telekinesis spell. Alter Self will offset a few weaknesses of the build, like the never-ending hunger for magicka caused by our main spell being a rather expensive concentration spell draining magicka per second of use. So use Alter Self to fortify magicka and the second rank to increase your defense against frost and shock spells. I would recommend to take Telekinetic Crush, which is a gloriously looking perk introduced by the Vokrii-Mysticism patch, but it didn't really work as described for me at least. It should deal 20 points of damage per second to enemies held with the Grant Telekinesis spell. But unless I installed something wrong or misunderstood the description, the perk just doesn't want to work for me as described. It's a shame. I wanted to do this. In one-handed, focus on the rightmost perks and take all of them up to Disarming Slash. The Sword Branch and the 100 perk of Victory Rush can be taken later in the game after the Light Armor perks are all done and dusted. So in Light Armor, take the Central Branch with Light Armor Fit and Training and nothing else, just to increase your mobility. On the right branch, aim for the War Dancer perk to deal more damage and regain stamina faster. You won't need any evasive sprint or anything like that. You don't need to be super fast. You just use your precision and discipline, because talent without training is nothing. Next, in smithing, go the fastest path to glass smithing. Enchant your blade after it is fully improved to spare yourself a perk point you would put in Arcane Blacksmith. In enchanting, take the Mastery as well as Weapon Enchanter and Armor Enchanter. Nothing more I needed. The build is super strong even without enchanting. Probably a skill itself with some potions would be enough. Just remember to use Enchanter's Elixir and you should be okay. Block will be very useful for us, but mainly in the early game and the mid game perhaps. Later, the Grant Telekinesis and Augmented Parry will completely overshadow any crowd control a block perk can give you, and indeed, you will not have many opportunities for bashing. If you would like to introduce some other skills like Illusion, you may even consider resetting the skill to Legendary. Block Runner, however, and Quick Reflexes will remain useful for a long time, because you should be able to fight like a very good duelist when out of magicka. We will make and enchant all of our items ourselves. I used 2 items of Peerless Smithing and 1 handmade Amulet of Smithing to improve both the sword and the armor. We will need 2 items of Fortify one-handed, that's Bracers and Ring, 2 of Fortify Alteration, chest piece and necklace, a hood with Fortify Magicka, and the boots with Fortify Stamina. You can consider going for Stamina Regeneration instead, which which I would normally advise for the sake of power attacks, but here, if I ever run out of stamina, I can focus on throwing people around with the spells, so no problem there at all. A flat value, I think, is slightly better in this particular case. The sword is enchanted simply with shock damage, and yes, chaos enchantment would be better, but really we don't need any more power here. Shock damage is cool because not a lot of things have resistance to it, and it certainly feels more lightsabery than frost or fire. We will use a narrow but very useful selection of spells from 3 different mods. Okato's Recital from Apocalypse will be used to store vanilla ebony flesh, and the Augmented Parry spell from Advanced Alteration. This way, whenever you enter combat, your armor rating will be increased, and you will create staggering force waves with each weapon bash. Then you will need at least the Telekinetic Slam and Telekinetic Throw spells from Advanced Alteration. First will levitate the target into the air and then slam them back to the ground. The other will simply knock the target off their feet. You can have some use for Irresistible Force and Irresistible Pull spells. The former moves the target away from you, the latter brings them closer. I love doing force pull to archers. Sooner or later, these advanced alteration spells will be overshadowed by Grand Telekinesis from Mysticism mod, which is a master concentration spell working similarly to the Vampire's Grasp power of the Vampire Lords, ragdolling and pulling people to you as you concentrate and flinging them away when you release the spell. Vanilla Telekinesis spell will be a very cheap way of dealing damage at range. With your items, spell absorption and magicka value, the spell costing only 3 points per second will not scratch your blue bar too much. Both ranks of the telekinetic force mean you can kill a simple bandit or a basic draugr by force throwing a bottle in their face or even in their knees. That works too. Even in the late game, it's a good way of dealing with the weakest of foes without wasting too much of your precious resources. I'd also recommend using the Blessing of Akatosh to offset the slow magicka regeneration a little bit at least, and Secret of Arcana Black Book power to use in the most difficult fights. The build uses no shouts, but if you really want to, obviously Slow Time, Unrelenting Force and Marked for Death are perfect. Like, it doesn't even need saying anymore. That's it. Just when in doubt, Slow Time, Unrelenting Force, Marked for Death, and you're golden. So this is basically everything you need to know. Maybe one final bit of advice: when using a Grand Telekinesis to throw people, it is best not to hold the spell too long. You actually get the best results by holding the spell for like a second until it is fully charged and then immediately releasing it. This way you can throw a lot of people away for a minimal cost in magicka. And I think that is it for today. What a bombshell of a build. What an absolute Jedi. What a mad lad. And it still has some room for perks before reaching level 50, so I am quite sure you can have a character with all the power presented in this video and much more. It's just so beautiful. Right, dear viewer, I hope you will have a lot of fun. I hope you will strike down and force push all the like buttons and subscribe buttons and bells, and may the force be with you. Bye bye.
Rey Skywalker.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
This is the greatest fucking shit that's ever happened this year.